1944. The world was emerging from the most destructive war humanity had ever seen. Cities lay in ruins, millions of lives lost, economies shattered. Amidst this chaos, 44 nations sent their representatives to a single room in Washington, D.C. It wasn't just a meeting. It was a pivotal moment that would shape the future of global finance and crown one currency as king, the U.S. dollar. World War II was not just a human tragedy. It was an economic cataclysm. Germany, Italy, Japan all lay in ruins. England and France, drained by years of war expenditures and crushing debt, were on the brink of collapse. Meanwhile, the United States emerged relatively unscathed. Its industrial base untouched, its factories operating at full capacity, and its gold reserves soaring. The war had disrupted trade networks worldwide. National currencies were unstable, trust between nations was scarce, and inflation threatened recovery. To rebuild a shattered world, a new international monetary system was urgently needed. This was the backdrop for the Bretton Woods Conference, where leaders would decide the fate of global finance. In July 1944, 730 delegates from 44 allied nations gathered at the Mount Washington Hotel in Bretton Woods, New Hampshire. Their mission was clear: design a financial system that would prevent another global economic collapse, facilitate trade, and restore international confidence. Two figures stood out in the discussions: John Maynard Keynes, representing the United Kingdom, and Harry Dexter White, representing the United States. The negotiations were intense. Keynes proposed an international clearing union, envisioning a supranational currency called Bancor to reduce dependency on any single nation. White, however, emphasized that the United States had unparalleled economic strength and gold reserves, making the dollar the natural choice as a global anchor. Through days of debate, the delegates argued over gold reserves, exchange rates, and national sovereignty. The tension in the room was palpable. Ultimately, pragmatism and economic reality prevailed. The U.S. had the leverage, the gold, and the production power to ensure that its currency would dominate the new system. The result was historic. On August 15, 1944, the Bretton Woods system was formalized. 1 ounce of gold was pegged to 35 U.S. dollars. Other currencies would peg their value to the dollar, creating a dollar-centered global economy. This was not merely an economic maneuver. It was a strategic power play. The United States now controlled the financial lifeblood of the post-war world. Trade became smoother, international confidence grew, and the dollar rose as the dominant global reserve currency. The impact was immediate. Nations pegged their currencies to the dollar, creating stability, but also a form of dependency. The world's economic growth would now revolve around the United States, and the dollar's reign had begun. The post-war reconstruction was inseparable from the dollar. The Marshall Plan poured billions into Europe, reviving shattered economies and ensuring political stability. Japan rebuilt its industrial might with U.S. support, laying the foundation for the nation's economic miracle in the 1950s and 60s. By tying their currencies to the dollar, nations gained stability, but also became reliant on American economic strength. Trade accelerated, and the dollar became the language of global finance. Even decades later, the influence of that 1944 decision is evident. The dollar became more than money. It became a tool of global policy, power, and influence. Within that single room, every decision mattered. Delegates debated the creation of the International Monetary Fund, the World Bank, and the gold dollar peg. While Keynes had envisioned a system that would prevent dependency on any one nation, White argued for practical stability. He emphasized America's ability to provide liquidity, rebuild Europe, and stabilize trade. Though these discussions were heated, the outcome was clear. The U.S. dollar would anchor the post-war economy. Stability, it was decided, came before equity. The consequences of that choice would ripple through the decades, defining global finance, trade policies, and political influence. The dollar's central role became cemented. Commodities like oil and gold were priced in dollars. International loans and reserves were held in dollars, and the U.S. gained unprecedented leverage over global finance. By centralizing power around a single currency, the Bretton Woods system enabled the United States to shape global economic policy. Even today, over 60% of global foreign exchange reserves are held in U.S. dollars. From war-torn cities to modern financial markets, the legacy of one room in 1944 remains. The dollar didn't just stabilize trade. It established American leadership in the global economy, with consequences that persist to this day. The story of the dollar's rise is more than history. It's a lesson in economics, power, and politics. A strong currency backed by trust, gold reserves, and industrial capacity can shape the world. Modern financial systems, even digital currencies, echo the principles formalized at Bretton Woods. Despite attempts by other nations to create alternatives, the dollar remains dominant. Its stability, global trust, and the network of international trade it anchors ensure that one decision in one room in 1944 continues to influence billions of lives around the globe. One room, 44 nations, a single decision. The dollar became king. The choice made under the shadow of war reshaped the world economy forever, defining the rules of trade, finance, and global power for generations. Understanding the past illuminates the present. From gold to greenbacks, from destruction to reconstruction, the story of 1944 reminds us that money, power, and politics are always intertwined. The dollar didn't just win the war, it won the world economy. If you found this story fascinating, make sure to hit the like button, subscribe for more historical and financial deep dives, and share your thoughts in the comments below. Which moment in history do you think changed the world the most? We'd love to hear your opinion.